Good morning to all of you. I'll be very brief. Sister Ranjana has been in the corporate world, I think most recently with Hutch Telecom about 10 years ago. And she's been here at the retreat for the last 10 years, and she still keeps very much one foot in the corporate world, educating people like us on inner transformation and conducting various workshops and on stress management and on spirituality. So I'd like to welcome her onto the stage, and let's have a round of applause for her. Thank you.
Good morning and Om Shanti. So very, very warm welcome to each one of you. And while I was listening to Brother Sanjay say what AFI is all about, something that struck my mind was a very beautiful quote from Robert Frost that I recalled. And he said that 2 roads traveled through the woods, and I chose the one less traveled, and that's made the difference. And so I really feel that all of us are here because I think we all fall into that category, which of choosing the road that was less traveled. And I was asked to actually highlight how we could leverage, because that was the word he used, leveraging technology and government. And then he said, you talk about how you could leverage spirituality. So that's quite interesting. Because spirituality, where does it come from? You know, it's not some from outside. We're all internally. Each one of us is a spiritual being. And so when we talk about leveraging spirituality to make an impact socially, it's just to connect with my own self and to really approach the whole thing outside from inside out. Yeah. So there's a little story that I can connect to very much to give in essence what I want to say. And I think we've heard the story as children. Once there was this egg of the eagle that rolled down the mountain and got mixed up with eggs of some chickens. And they all hatched together. And so this baby eagle was born, and so were the other baby chickens. And the baby eagle started to grow up with the baby chickens. And so when the baby eagle used to look at the other chickens, he used to feel that these are my brothers and sisters. And when he looked at the mother hen, he thought, this is my mother. And so they grew up together very happily. And in a few days, the baby eagle learned to walk like a chicken, talk like a chicken, make noises like a chicken, eat food, pick food grains like a chicken. And so that was the way he lived. And he was quite happy with it. Until one fine day, what happens is they were all having their food grains. And suddenly, he notices a shadow overhead. And so the baby eagle looks up at the sky to see this huge bird, hovering around and flying very, very high. And so with his mouth wide open, he exclaims and he says, who is that? And the chickens tell him, that's an eagle. And the eagle is the master of the skies. And this baby eagle keeps looking, and then he exclaims, I wish I were an eagle too. And the chickens tell him, don't be silly, you are just a chicken. And so really, the question for me and for you and for all of us generally is that, are we eagles sometimes living like chickens? Or, in other words, I think within each one of us, there is an eagle waiting to be discovered and waiting to fly. And all of us in this room, at least, have discovered. Yeah? And so we are here to try and make it fly as high as possible, isn't it? And so a very, very warm welcome. And spirituality, essentially, this is what it does in essence, helping me discover who I really am and then use that to my full potential so that whatever I have, I can actually use it to do what I have to do. I also remember this other story from Ramayana. I understand that there are people from outside of India who may not have heard about it, but it's a beautiful story. When this character Hanumanji wanted to cross the Lanka, he actually initially gets quite anxious and he feels that it's not possible. How will I cross the Lanka? And then he is reminded of who he is suddenly. He's reminded that he is the son of wind god, Pavan Putra. And as soon as he is reminded of who he is, suddenly, as if all the powers come up and he crosses the ocean within a few seconds. And so something that seemed to be completely impossible becomes very, very easy and possible as soon as he gets this into his head that I am the child of wind god. And so these are my powers. And so I can just fly over it. It's not a big deal, you know. And so I think this is a very beautiful story which represents sometimes when all of us are faced with challenges, and I'm sure if we've come this long, we've had to face a lot of challenges and situations on the way. And whenever there is this feeling that I cannot do it, it's just because I have forgotten, at least momentarily, who I really am. I think we have a lot of resource inside, and a lot of it is waiting to be explored and tapped. And this word spirituality comes from the word spirit, and spirit means the self. And so when I say I am a spiritual person, it just means to know, understand, and connect with myself at a very, very deep level, so that whatever I have within, I am able to tap into that potential and then use it to the best of my ability. That's what spirituality is all about in essence. And when I remind myself of who I am, just like when Hanuman was reminded of who he is, all his powers that he had forgotten emerged as if they emerged from nowhere, you know. And so when I remind myself every morning of who I really am, a lot of this potential that lies within is emerged, and I am able to live life to the fullest and live life the way it has to be lived. You know, it's like what happens is when the tree grows, you know, if you plant a small sapling, you start to water the root. And slowly, 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 the roots begin to go underground and they become really strong underground. And then the sapling starts to grow, and then there are leaves and flowers and fruits, and the tree begins to look very beautiful. But even if the tree is quite, you know, big and beautiful, if I look at the tree and wonder that what adds value to the tree is the leaf and the flower and the fruits, right? But I still have to continue watering the root, yeah? Because it is the root that gives strength to the leaves and the flowers and the fruit. So if I look at the tree and wonder, then why am I watering the root? Because the root is invisible. What matters is the leaf and the fruit and the flower, because that's what gives identification to that tree. And that's what, you know, the praise of the tree is dependent on how beautiful the leaf and the fruit and the flower. And so if I forget to water the root and start cleaning every leaf and every flower and every fruit of the tree, it just doesn't solve the purpose. Yeah? I have to make sure that the root is strong, and the stronger, the bigger the tree, the stronger the root needs to be. You know? So that every leaf and flower and fruit is automatically taken care of. And to water the root, it doesn't take too much time. Because that's one issue that we all have, isn't it? That we're always short of time, right? And so really it doesn't take too much time. The good news is it doesn't take too much time to water the root. It's just a matter of a few minutes. But if I forget to water the root and I decide to clean every leaf and every flower and every fruit of the tree, it's going to take me ages to do that and with no result. Yeah, and I assume that you got the message of the story. If I look at my own life, then I myself is at the root of this life tree that I've created for myself. You know, all of us in this room are social entrepreneurs, and so you have a big tree, a big creation to look after. And I'm sure we all want to give our best to every aspect of our life, be it professional, be it social, be it personal, relationships, be it the family, be it our own finances. All of these aspects add beauty to who I am and gives me a sense of identity in the society. But however, one thing that we tend to forget as we go around watering and taking care of each of these aspects is how to look after myself. Yeah? So if you ask yourself, how much time do you spend with yourself during the day? And where does that come on your list of priority? So usually it's almost at the bottom, or sometimes it's not even there in that list. Why? Because of lack of time. You know? And so it's like saying that I spend the whole day cleaning each and every leaf and flower and fruit, and since the tree is so big, I don't have time to water the root. Yeah? So it really doesn't make sense. Even if the tree is big, you know, that is in fact all the more necessary to make sure that the root is strong. And so little spiritual techniques that is taught in the Brahma Kumaris would ask of you to spend around 10 minutes each day in the morning before you begin your routine and before you actually go around taking care of the leaves and the fruits and the flowers that you've created, which is beautiful. But then those 10 minutes to water the root, to connect with yourself, to remind yourself each morning of who you really are, or to put it in other words, to unmask. You know, we wear so many masks during the day, depending on the roles that we have to play, which is good. But then to unmask, and then to really be able to look at who you really are. And when I do that for, say, 10 days, 15 days, 20 days, regularly, then that actually strengthens the root. It gives me that inner strength to face the challenges that are there outside. And it allows me to re-emerge everything that is within and bring it to the surface, and so that I can then use it to, take care of my creation. And so the first step to a spiritual approach is to start taking responsibility for myself, self-responsibility. Because we are young leaders and responsible for, hundreds and thousands, and maybe indirectly responsible for the whole nation. Yeah. But to make sure that the responsibility doesn't actually translate into some kind of stress at some point in time. Sometimes if there's too much responsibility to handle, then that also increases our stress levels. And that's because somewhere down the line, I forget to take responsibility for my own self. And when I say responsibility, it is my ability to respond to situations. And really, in any situation, no matter how complex it is, there is one thing, and that's the only thing which is always in your control. Can you tell me what it is? In any complex situation, there is only one thing, and that's the only thing that is always 100% in your control. Yeah, exactly. That's my ability to respond to that situation. And I think that decides everything. The situation doesn't really decide the end result. It's how I respond to it that matters anyway at the end of the day. And if I am empowered enough to choose that response, we all are blessed with that power to choose our responses. But when I don't use it for quite some time, then other people take control of my emotional remote, So somebody can make me angry, somebody can make me cry, somebody can make me upset, somebody can shake me off balance completely. So which it just means that my emotional control is quite distributed. And so the first approach to a spiritual lifestyle, which I feel is very, very useful for everybody sitting in this room, because we have to shoulder a big responsibility, is to reclaim that emotional remote control that lies in other people's hands. And how do I do that? Is just by reminding myself every morning of how powerful I really am. And when I remind myself of the powers, the inner powers that I have to choose my response to situations, and slowly, slowly those powers begin to emerge and become very much a part of my behavior and a part of my personality, and hence a part of everything that I do. And so this is the inside-out approach, which will help us, what Brother Sanjay just described, leverage spirituality to make a social impact. Because when each one in this room starts to use the powers that we've been blessed with, we would have a group of very, very empowered. One is powerful, which we're all, but also empowered is internally very powerful young leaders who I am sure will make a big difference to the nation. So this evening, because this process of, it's not an intellectual analysis. When I say, who am I? It's not about performing a SWOT analysis and trying to, intellectualize it. What are my weaknesses and what are my strengths, and make a list and put it. It's not just that. It's a very experiential process of spending some time with yourself and really going deep within and trying to find out what are your virtues, what are your powers, and then try to experience it. So it's a very experiential process, not so much a brainy process. And so that process of spending some time with yourself to connect with yourself and understand who you really are and to experience, that is called as meditation. And so this evening, I think there is a slot between 6 to 7. There is a slot for all those of you who would like to explore this a bit more, to come back And to understand what meditation is, we would have our sisters talk to you about meditation and also take you through that experience, because you've come to the spiritual place and the vibrations of this atmosphere are so conducive for any experiential process. I'm sure this is one good opportunity you have to experience this method for yourself. And so I would like to extend an invitation to each and every one of you to join us back. I know it's going to be a long day, but still to join us back for some time at 6 in the evening, so that you get a chance to go through this process yourself, and then you get to carry it back with you and then do it every day in life, right? So thank you very much and all the best. Om Shanti.